That I was just wondering that is the inner critic also trying to protect us by being critical?
And so, anytime we hear, don't do this, or why did you do it this way, that adds to the voice of the inner
Like,
critic.
does my relationship with myself, with my inner critic, reflect the relationships that I have with other people?
But slowly, there are those layers of criticism that builds up as we grow up, and that's what forms our inner critic.
I'm going to be your nasty inner critic, beating you up, and you need to rephrase it to have a fruitful conversation with me.
Sounds good, sounds good. I have such a beautiful looking inner critic. Go ahead. You can imagine he was nasty.
The tennis champion Rafael Nadal said that the hardest thing he has to do on court is to manage the voices inside his head.
During breaks between play, he goes over to his bench. First, he takes a sip out of one water bottle, then he takes a sip out of another. Then he puts each water bottle back exactly where he picked them up from on a diagonal to the court. It's a ritual he does to manage his chatter.
In this episode, I've had the pleasure to converse with Coach Manisha Singh. Her work in the space of coaching over 2 decades explores mindsets and beliefs where she helps individuals in their journey of self discovery. This podcast will help you understand how to manage and regain control over your inner voice, your inner critic. I'm also going to play a small game with Manisha, so make sure to stay tuned till the end. In conversation with Coach Manisha Singh. Enjoy yourselves. Hello, Manisha. It's such a pleasure to have you on this episode today, and congratulations on your book launch, The 10th Story.
Thank you so much, Bhakti. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited about this conversation and I love the work you do. I've been following your channel for some time now, and like it's an honor to be here. Really looking forward.
Thanks so much, Manisha. So, one of the main conversations that we do is with ourselves. Every one of us has this inner voice. Sometimes we use our inner voice to our advantage. Like when I crave for a midnight snack, my inner voice immediately tells me, stop, Bhakti, else you'll regret it in the morning. So essentially, it's helping me maintain self control. Now, this inner voice is a very powerful, helpful tool if used to our advantage. But yes, there's always a but. While this inner voice can be an incredible source of support, in other times it can really sink us. So let's say I've just had a bad experience. Now, that negative experience has ended in reality, but it plays in a loop in my mind. We keep thinking about that event over and over and over again. For example, let's say in this conversation that we're having, if I fumble or I blank out, my inner critic is going to take my case. So, Manisha, what is your perspective on inner critic, and what are some tools that we can use to regain control of this inner chatter?
Um, so, Bhakti, I'll begin by just sharing how this inner critic develops within each one of us. So, during our formative years, all of what is said around us, which we perceive as critical, gets stored and becomes this voice, which is our inner critic. And so, anytime we hear, don't do this, or why did you do it this way, that adds to the voice of the inner critic, and it keeps growing as we grow because our exposure increases. So when we are little, our creativity is just untethered, right? Because we're like a blank slate. So kids are very creative, they go ahead, they don't criticize themselves, they have a nice time. But slowly there are those layers of criticism that builds up as we grow up, and that's what forms our inner critic. So, the first thing which helps us embark on this journey of engaging constructively with our inner critic is really noticing it. Just becoming aware of how we are talking to ourselves, or what's the voice within us saying to us. Once we start observing it, then comes the next step, which is gentle self inquiry. When I say gentle inquiry, I mean asking or inquiring into that voice as to, is there any action for us here? The other way is also to slowly build evidence that supports us in our endeavors. So, for example, many times when we are going to do something, there is this voice that tells us, "Don't do it," or "You can't do it," or "You'll not be good at it." And each time that happens, to just make a note of what was the reservation that we had, or what was the doubt that we had, and then going ahead, doing what we had to do with preparation, and then creating a journal. A surprise journal is a journal where we have a record of all the times that we've surprised ourselves positively, where we thought something would not go well, but it actually went very well, where we felt that, oh, someone's not going to support us, but they actually supported us. Instances where we felt that, oh, probably I should not ask for this, probably I'll not be given this, but where we still went ahead, took the bold step, asked, and then we actually got what we wanted.
When you actually said that, I was just wondering that is the inner critic also trying to protect us by being critical?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the purpose of that voice being there. You may have heard of the negativity bias in the brain. So when we were evolving as hunter gatherers, we had to make a note of everything that was unsafe to survive.
Mhm.
And so our mind has a tendency to latch on to whatever is negative and less to the positive, because the purpose is to protect, like you said. Likewise, we latch on to whatever we felt is critical, whereas we were
Yeah.
getting both types of feedback.
Yeah.
The inner critic is all the accumulation and amalgamation of everything that we perceived.
So there is
Uh,
like a very fine balance, and we need to be mindful.
Absolutely, yeah. I think even believing that it's there to help us,
Hmm.
right? In addition to knowing, really believing that yes, it's there to help us. How do we engage with it in a way that's constructive, and how do we filter out anything that's not serving us? That the surprise journal is one tool. The second tool on similar lines, which helps us really reshape this narrative that's going on in our head, is a success story journal, or a inventory of all our successes, right from when we were little. So that each time there is a voice that holds us back, we have evidence to close loop that there are a number of things that we've achieved so far in different realms of our life, academics, work, relationships, handling difficult situations. Keeping that inventory handy and taking a look at it whenever we're feeling that, we are being pulled 10 steps back. And the third one is being the voice of support.
Okay.
So, this mechanism, right, of latching on to whatever feels negative is there for everyone.
Mhm.
Maybe a colleague who's feeling exactly the same way before a presentation, right? And who's probably sitting next to us just ready to share that, hey, I am feeling very nervous about it. And when we encourage the person sitting next to us, when we become a voice of support for him or her, there are a couple of things that happen within us. One is we feel empowered that we are able to give someone support. Whenever we are in a place of giving, we
Mhm.
feel stronger. Right? And the second is that when we become that voice, it begins to reshape things in our own mind.
Mhm.
And over a period of time, we build a community of people who want to support us because that's what we're giving out. We're creating that, emotional bank balance with people where they would want to support us when we need to hear that.
Yeah, so it's like almost saying that if somebody next to me is very, say, nervous about giving a presentation or talking in a meeting that's important, and if I'm feeling the same, I'm just going to lower their energy as well. But if I'm going to give them that push, it's going to somewhere help me overcome my inner critic and turn it into an inner coach in a way.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And the way you described it, which was beautiful, it reminded me of a term called positive contagion, which is that, in a meeting, if there are, one or two people who are really positive,
Hmm.
the rest also begin to feel positive
Yeah.
because we have mirror neurons, where we mirror other people's emotions. So that kind of amplifies our attempt to bring out positivity. And
And is it also that you're raising your own vibrations, you're raising your own energy and then radiating out to others as well? Because you can just imagine if there's a room full of nervous or stressful people, that's not going to help you. It's just going to amplify the voice that your inner critic is constantly telling you.
absolutely. I think there is such a dynamic feedback loop within us that a slight change of posture can change the chemistry within,
Okay.
right? Like sitting this way,
Hmm.
feel more stressed, right? Because this supports the secretion of more cortisol. Whereas if we
Yeah.
sit this way, or even better, if we do something like this, an open gesture, immediately makes us feel more powerful.
Well, I'm going to try that right now, Manisha.
Yeah, please do. Please do and tell me how you feel. You
It's
know,
actually,
me,
yeah, it actually
because
makes a difference when you're sitting up straight versus when you're just bending. That's a brilliant way to overcome your inner critic. So the way that I react to my inner critic, is it the same way that I react to people who resemble my inner critic? Does my relationship with myself, with my inner critic, reflect the relationships that I have with other people? Just curious.
yes, when we work on our relationship with ourselves,
Mhm.
our relationship with others improves. And you've kind of really put that under the lens when you've said that, is it the relationship with the inner critic?
Mhm.
And I think that's exactly what it is. Because when we are equipped to really gently question that inner critic, we also have a more constructive approach to resolving conflicts, let's say.
And I love the tools that you gave about a surprise journal. Like, for instance, if I think that if I have a presentation, or let's say I have a few spots or pimples on my face, I might think that, oh my God, the entire world is noticing that. But then when I actually go out, for all you know, nobody is noticing any of that, or nobody is noticing a mistake that I made in our conversation today, or a presentation, for all you know. And then I should actually write down what really happened. And that'll give me a reality check that I'm being too harsh on myself.
Yes, absolutely. And if I have to give you a recent example of my
Mhm.
surprise journal, Bhakti, I recently invited very close group of friends, mentors to the book launch. Now, book launch was on Saturday, and my inner critic was saying that, Manisha, no one's going to come because it's a it's a Saturday, and you're probably expecting too much. And that was showing in the way I was taking steps. Like, I took less number of copies than I should have, and I was thinking it's fine because as it is, people will not come. And everyone came, and they came with so much love. They came with family, and I fell short of books. That went into my surprise journal. It was like so overwhelming in a nice way, right? That people wanted to come and support. So that was a big learning for me to not assume. And
Exactly.
I'm yet to trace back what the origins are. Maybe somewhere growing up, I've heard that don't trouble people, don't ask for their time
Mm.
because they have better things to do. And so by making that entry, I'm reshaping, my narrative, that maybe it's not only taking, maybe it's giving them an opportunity to come
Right.
and support me. So it's like the same situation, but two different narratives.
So even if like you're constantly making a journal of your inner critic over a period of time, you might notice a trend coming out, and then you might really want to solve it from the root as well.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing is that, sometimes we are able to trace down exactly where did it begin.
Mm. Interesting.
We, the elders who've probably, like in my families, always taught me that don't trouble anybody. Don't ask anybody for anything. Don't inconvenience them. Be very mindful
Mm.
of what you're asking people for or when you are asking them for, right?
Yeah, so the next time you have a book launch, you're not going to make those assumptions on behalf of other people, and you're going to keep extra few copies.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Bhakti.
So, keeping a surprise journal, keeping a list of your achievements, being mindful, being a voice of support to create a high frequency vibe for yourself, and that'll definitely pass on to others. Brilliant tools, Manisha. So, let's play a game. In this game, I'm going to be your nasty inner critic, beating you up, and you need to rephrase it to have a fruitful conversation with me.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I have such a beautiful looking inner critic. Go ahead. I can't imagine he was nasty. Yeah. But let's do this.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Very kind, Manisha. But well, right now I'm your nasty inner critic. So here I go. Manisha, you should not have done this.
Okay. Um, what would I like to do differently next time? What's here for me to learn?
Manisha, you're just not good for anything. You cannot do anything right.
What can help me get things right? Or would I have liked a different outcome?
Manisha, you can never ever be on time.
What can I do to help myself to reach in time?
Manisha, you're definitely going to fail this exam. Like, what were you thinking?
Given the resources that I have, what's the best that I can do to take this exam in the best possible way?
You should have said that in the interview. I don't think you're going to get this job.
How would I say this differently next time? What would have helped me to express myself the way I wanted to?
Manisha, I this is exactly what I've been telling you all the while. You don't have any true friend.
Hmm. What is a true friend for me? What does a true friend look like? What can I do to deepen my relationships? What can I do to be a true friend?
I told you, you cannot trust anyone next time. You just don't listen to me. You can't trust anyone next time.
What are some signs that can help me understand psychological safety? What are some signs that can help me understand that this is a high trust space? What are some red flags that I want to be aware of next time?
I'm curious. So, being your inner critic, everything that I got was a question back. How did you kickstart it with a question?
So what happens is when I question, Bhakti, it gives me an opportunity to derive some action out of it. The other option is to go and maybe seek someone else, someone else's consolation. But
Mhm.
again, that person hasn't been through that experience.
For instance, let's say if I WhatsApp you, if you are somewhere in the middle of a meeting, but you happen to open the text, and if you don't get back to me until later that night or even the next morning, I might be like, oh God, is Manisha not interested? Does she not value me? Does she not see that I have responded? And if she's read it, can't she take out 2 seconds to just tell me that, okay, she's going to get back to me? So that's
Yeah.
one part of the inner critic talking to us. But then making it a positive conversation, giving it a benefit of doubt might also help, right, in those situations.
A way of really interrupting that loop would be to ask, okay, what are the facts here? Just like the interview, do I really know I haven't got selected?
Yeah.
Right? Do I really know that this person's broken my trust, right?
Mhm.
If it has happened, then yes, absolutely, we need to move on to that next question, which I was saying that what's the learning here, right?
Mhm.
But let's say I haven't got a response. That's the only thing I know.
Hmm.
That's it, right? So I do not know whether you really consider me important enough or not. I do not know whether you've ignored me or not because I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Uh, and when I do that reality check myself, right, that helps me slow down, and not jump to conclusions, right, of what I'm going to do about it. The
Right.
next thing is that what is the outcome that I'm looking at, right? Just like the interview, what is the outcome? I'm looking for a job,
Right.
right? So can I have a plan B?
Mm.
Maybe that channelizes my energy constructively.
Yeah.
Um, in this case, it would be like, okay, the outcome I'm looking for is a response. Do I need it right now? If it's not urgent, can I wait? Can I wait for 24 hours and send a reminder?
Right. It's basically replacing your inner critic with, for it to be an inner coach to an extent, giving a benefit of doubt, not
Yes.
assuming, not jumping to conclusions.
Yes, absolutely. And when we ask a what question, we are likely to get a response which directs us to an action. Move forward, it helps us move forward.
All right. So let's have a rapid fire round. Are you ready for a one word for everything that I tell you now?
Okay, all set. Yeah, let's do this.
Perfect. Mind,
Magic,
inner voice,
guidance,
intuition,
superpower,
coach,
thought partner,
Manisha Singh.
coach.
Brilliant. Thanks. Thanks so much, Manisha. It's been such a beautiful, lovely time to have this conversation with you. And thanks everyone over there for watching. Do you dread your inner critic or do you depend on it? I'll leave you with that thought. Thanks so much, Manisha, for sharing your thought provoking insights on our inner critic. I'm sure that all the tools that you shared with us will benefit many of our viewers out there.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, Bhakti. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks for the wonderful questions. Thanks for making this so enjoyable for me. All the best to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Manisha. So, guys, what you tell yourself every day, every moment, will either lift you up or tear you down. The choice is in your hands. Please tell me what you thought of this particular episode. Also, tell me what you would have liked me to ask Manisha. Stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for many such interesting conversations coming your way. Until next time.